Okay guys, we're back with video number 2. We left off here. Okay, so a few things I wanted to do before we get into strategy. There's our toolbars up here. You know, it's pretty simple. You can just look at the different stuff that you got here. You know, the leagues, information, rosters, managers, transactions, trading block, my team. You got matchups, which is what we're in right now. Players, you can go and look at like injury reports. There's all kinds of cool stuff in here. Some of this stuff I don't even know what it is. I don't use it. So, and then there's commissioner stuff. That's like for me, where I'm the commissioner of the groups. I can change things and do things in there. You've got stat tracker. You've even got a fantasy shop in here. So they've got quite a lot of stuff that you can do in. Okay, so let's go over here now. I can't access the mock drafting now. It is pretty simple though. And the best way for me to show you how a mock draft's going to look is it's basically going to look like this. You'll have a certain amount of time. I think we go with 1 minute. Usually, you know, I tell people, be ready before it's your turn. That way we can draft a little faster. But you have a minute to draft. It is literally this that you're looking at right here. You know, let's say Sidney Crosby's at the top, or this year it'll probably be McDavid, Crosby, you know, and whatnot. What Yahoo does is after all the teams are in, and I have all the team managers into their teams, so, you know, it would be like, we go back to here, and then our regular standings throughout the week, so, you know, we see everybody's team. What happens is basically Yahoo will randomize these people. Someone will get first pick, someone will get second, third, fourth, fifth, you know, all the way down to 12th. It is a snake draft. So let's say King of Beers was the last pick. Well, then he would be the first pick for round 2. So he'd be like, he'd pick twice. And then it would go Craig's team, Alan's team, flying high, tossing buckets, all the way back to first. And then he would have the last pick in the second round. But then they'd have the first pick in the third round. So it would snake back down, and then snake back up, and then snake, and that's literally how we have it set. It is by far the fairest way. The other way, first pick just destroys everybody mostly. So we always do snake drafts. I will not change it. Don't bother even asking me, because I've been in those before. And whoever picks in the first few picks tends to win. And it's not necessarily, because lots of things can happen, but it does give you a big advantage. I like to be fair so that, you know, if you're the last guy picking, well, at least you get to be the first guy picking on the second round, and the 4th round, and the 6th round, and the 8th round, you know, so it's much more fair. So, with that in mind, let's go back into my thing. So let's say we've got our stats picked, and let's say I got first pick, or, you know, whoever. Is that people messaging me? So, you know, you'd have this up here. You know, most of the time with these, it would be all players. It wouldn't just be all forwards and defensemen, because you'd have goalies in the mix here too. My stuff, you know, you're gonna want to have. Ooh, well, that's awfully weird. All right, let me go back out of there. Go back into the number 1. Free pool actually showed it a lot better. For some reason, the free pool didn't go into its after thing, so it's actually quite helpful for us. So like in this one here, you know, let's look at my team. My first picks, you know, there's a few ways you can do this. Goalies are very important. I'm just going to say that right now. Every year, there's always someone that ignores the effing goalies, and you're screwed. You need at least 1 starter and a backup, if not 2 starters. Now, you know, sometimes we get 20 people in a pool. It gets sketchy, you know. Like, I always go goalies first. I've always been a goalies first guy. Although last year I decided to try something different where I had a little more punch up here. You know, I did okay with it too. But I always pick, my very first pick, I believe, was this guy right here, Braden Holtby. He was my first pick, and you can guess who came second. Was Corey Crawford. I picked up Lundqvist later in the year, so he was just a recent acquisition. I had another backup goalie that was in there, but I try to have 2 goalies, even if it's, you know, it is really important. Also, the top players like Crosby, McDavid are also super important too. So it really depends on how you want to go. You need a starter. you need, I'd say 2 starters would be preferable, or a starter and a half the time starter, like how Howard and Mrazek have going on there. You don't want to screw yourself out of 7 points because you didn't pay attention to the goalies. Yeah, sure, there's 10 points here, but to just completely ignore 7 points, it's asinine, you know. So you've got to have goalies. Goalies are the first things that go. Everybody that's played these now realize you got to have goalies. You know, I will, if I get a first pick, sometimes take, you know, the number 1 pick. Like say if it's McDavid, I might take McDavid on the first pick. It's a little risky. It's going to drop the quality of my goaltending, but I still know that I'll be able to get a couple of decent-ish starters. But generally, I go goaltending first. Other people go forwards first, right? I mean, you can win without having super duper goaltending. I mean, I don't know if anybody managed to do it this year. Let me look at the first money pool. And let's take a look at this matchup right here, if it lets me. Yeah, it's going to let me. So let's look. These guys were in the finals. Frederik Andersen, Devin Dubnyk, Carey Price. So there you go. There's 3 starters. We didn't have a super amount of people this year, so goalies were quite, you know, usable. Well, here he's got Condon, Khudobin, and he had Talbot, and Talbot would be his main goalie. Luongo probably would have been had he not been hurt. You've got Mrazek as an after starter, and Khudobin and Condon were both pickups. So I guarantee that they just picked up for 1 game each to give them some extra stats, right? So, and if you notice, he ended up beating him in some of these stats. Now he tied in the game start, so those two pickups meant that he actually tied this right here, and it meant that he beat him in these 2. So as you can see, he used his strategy. He knew that he was not going to be able to keep up with these 2 goalies. His other goalie's down, so he picked up 2 backups. When it was time, he's seen, okay, Khudobin's starting tomorrow. I'm going to pick him up. That way tomorrow he was available to play. He got him a win. Got him a bunch of saves, really good. And Condon didn't do as good a job, but still, if you look at what happened in the championship game, it made a difference right here, it made a difference right here, and it made a difference right here. So you take away those 2 points, that takes him down to 6. That puts him up to 7. Avita would have won right there. So that was the difference in it, was that Dom used his strategy that way and managed to grab an extra person. Now it looks like here, even it was used here as well with Alvita. He picked up Carter. See, they were using their strategies against each other. Strategies is a part of this, especially in the playoffs. You know, you've got to win, right? If you don't win, you're done. So it's strategies comes into it. Goaltending comes into it. It depends on what your play style is. I try to balance my teams, you know, like usually if you notice any of my teams this year, I'll just click on my team here. You look at my team, Holtby, Allen, Stalock. So, you know, I had 2 starters in this one. I had one guy that, you know, was a backup. I wish people would stop messaging while I'm doing this. And as you can see, you know, my goal, Shen, Jenner, Marchand, Marlos. Let's just look at the whole season. I try to round myself out. You know, Shen, high-powered offense, still get some decent hits in there too. Got Jenner, again, same kind of player. Marchand, again, same kind of player. Doesn't get many hits, but he definitely gets the penalty minutes. I try to round out my stats. You know, my defense, I've got 1 high-powered defenseman here. I've got another one in the middle-ish. Hanifin did really good this year, you know, in consideration. And you've got Calvin DeHaan, who isn't a high-powered goal scorer. He had a pretty good year, but if you look at his back stats, 190 blocks, 139. For defenseman, he had a good amount of shots on goal. Adam Larson, look at Adam Larson. Not big on the up stats, but look, plus 21, 55 penalty minutes. Doesn't get many shots, but look, 253 hits and 160 blocks. Makes him a very useful on those back stats, right? So, depends on what you want to use. As you can see, I had 2 workhorses, 63-60. Those were my workhorses this year. They got me to 3rd place. You know, I didn't win, but I managed to get to 3rd place. Just scooch back out. Let's look at my brothers, actually. So I won this one. let's look at our final. I took on a local guy, John. It's a very tight race. We actually tied. So in this case, because we tied, it went to a tiebreaker. And the tiebreaker was what happened when we faced each other during the regular season, and I beat him in the regular season, which is why I ended up beating him in a tiebreak. So really we tied each other. So, I mean, but they have to go to some sort of tie break. So what they do is they use, let's say if John had beaten me the couple of times we had faced in the regular season, then he would have won that tie break. But as you can see, you know, the stats, up, down. My goaltending in this one wasn't the greatest, although I had Holtby and Quick. Quick was injured all year. Berra, well, you know, I had no goaltending in this one. I had Holtby, and I think I might have had Luongo that I had to drop. And that's where we ended up going there. So you can win without the best goaltending, because I certainly ain't got it here. I mean, Quick came back, but as you know, LA was not great, to say the least. So if you look at the stats here, and it reflects that, I managed to squeak out enough starts to beat him there, but it was pretty bad goaltending. I mean, I didn't do very well. Now, these stats are different than the ones we use, so you'll see there's less. We tied on blocks. We did that kind of stuff. If you look at my team, you know, like I said, I try different. Oh, yeah, you're just realizing I won a medal this year. It's a little slow. On this one here, the last day, I did screw up. I had set my players, and I'd forgotten this one. So look, I lost 3 goals in that last one. One was a power play point and 5 shots. So I could have lost this because of me not paying attention. That's how easy it would have been right there. So let's see, 3 goals and 1 power play point. Would that have made a difference? No, not really. Wouldn't have made a difference. Shots. I already beat him in all those stats anyway, so it wouldn't have made much of a difference, but it could have, right? So it's important that you check. Important that you don't be like me and have like 8 of these and then, you know, go ding, 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 do through them and then be like, oops, I missed one. So you just need to, I mean, not everybody's crazy like I am with this. I have at least 5 or 6 every year. I'll have 5 or 6 this coming year. I really enjoy them. And, you know, it's about strategy and pitting your hockey knowledge against other people. And I've got, what, a couple of minutes left before I have to stop the video. I will go into Kim's. And this is the one I was in with Kim's this year. It's my first year ever being in a Keeper League. Keeper League's pretty simple. When we start the Keeper League this year, we'll just play it like we always do. You know, it'll be blah, blah, blah. But the next following year, these teams will still exist. So let's say this is my team from this year. The keepers that I had was Boone Jenner. I also had Brett Burns and Kuznetsov. And the reason why I have these guys is I got them at a very low pick. Not this year, but the year before. They were picked low on the list. They weren't good yet, or they hadn't broken out yet. So I held on to these guys because, you know, let's say Boone Jenner was picked 15th round. I won't have a pick in 15th round. But let's face it, he is a hell of a lot better than who I'm probably going to get in 15th round anyways. So that's what a Keeper League is you get to keep, probably I'll do 3 like she did, and we'll have 3 players that you can keep. So let's say this coming year, we do our thing, let's say whoever wins it, and then the next year, we'll all come back, and you'll get to keep 3 of those players. So you'll say, you know, let's say I had McDavid. Well, okay. It's nice to keep McDavid, even though you got him first pick. He's still awesome, right? So you could keep him. For mine, I kept Brent Burns because, let's face it, he's the most useful defenseman out there when it comes to offensive capabilities. And Kuznetsov and Boone Jenner were both extremely good players that were picked very low because they hadn't broken out yet. So that's why I went with mine. I ended up in 4th. You know, it was my first year doing it. She's got a lot of different stats that I wasn't used to. Oh, it's just going to show Kim. So I was pretty lost. I was actually near the bottom there for quite a long time before I figured out what the heck was going on. But once I started getting the hang of it, you know, I managed to play for bronze, so it's respectable this year. Joe beat my butt. So either way, that's the videos. If you guys want anything specific for me to go over, I will. I can always do another video or something. If you have any questions, just message me. They're super easy. They're super fun. Once you play with it for 20 minutes, it is not hard to do. So it's a lot of fun, guys. All right. I hope this helps. Have a good one.